And it seems like this is the power right now. I wonder what Hamilton would think if he was around now.
Well, I think this business of appointing Henry Paulson, the Treasury Secretary, as some sort of economic dictator, Hamilton would have reveled in that. He, at the Constitutional Convention, he proposed a permanent president who would appoint all the governors, and that's why he's gone down in history as being a monarchist. His opponents, like Jefferson, said, "Well, that's a king you're talking about. We're just not calling him a king." And so I suspect he would approve of this sort of thing. In fact, I was in a sort of a debate with there's a historian named John Steele Gordon who wrote a book called Hamilton's Blessing about the national debt. Hamilton actually called national debt a public blessing. And I know average people would say, "Are you crazy?" But you have people with PhDs saying, "Oh, no, this is a good idea." But he wrote an article, John Steele Gordon did, in the Wall Street Journal shortly after this bailout was announced, saying this is a good thing because it will lead to a financial dictator, and he praised Hamilton as the source of this idea. So, sure, even the people who are sort of Hamilton worshippers are telling us in places like the Wall Street Journal, this is a good thing, but I think by instinct, the average American would think, no, this is a rotten idea. One man in charge of spending trillions of dollars.
Yes.
That's a
what could be good
dangerous
about
line
that?
to walk.
The dictatorship always leads to suffering of the public.
Yes.
And yet we continue to put his face on a $10 bill.
Hey, you know,
well, that's not our choice.
Canada. I was in Canada not too long ago, and they don't put all politicians on their currency. There's things other than politicians. They've got some politicians, but it's sort of unique to Americans that all our currency has pictures of dead politicians on it.
They got hockey players on the currency in Alaska?
Well, I didn't have that much Canadian currency, but I wouldn't doubt it. Maybe maple leaf.
Yes.
I think a few mountains with snow on them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
A moose or something.
Well, that's it. We kind of set these people up on a pedestal, and then the public becomes so passive that they don't even question their leaders anymore, right?
Yes, it's just about a year or a year and a half ago, I was looking at something on the internet today of some speeches that some of the financial experts on television were making, and they were all bloviating about how, of course, it's ridiculous to think that we're en route to a recession. Everything is peachy. Invest more of your money in the stock market. Borrow, and people believe this stuff. And I'm a PhD economist. I've spent 28 years as a college professor, and it all seems so futile now. I've been at it all this time, and here, as have a lot of other people. And it seems as though the public not only doesn't know much about economics, but doesn't care to know much. They're lazy. They want to give it the responsibility to one guy, the Secretary of the Treasury, and tell him, take care of me. We've all been conditioned to that, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
And as long as
severe form of
and as long as we're comfortable, American public is comfortable, they don't want to question. Let it ride. But
why rattle the boat?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's we've been so conditioned because the welfare state says you don't need to help poor people because the government will, or you don't need to educate your own kids, the schools will. You don't need to take care of grandma in her old age. Social Security will take care of her. And I think this is just an inevitable result of that kind of thinking. The government is here, and we're going to take care of you. But for goodness sake, when are people going to learn that they're lying? They're not taking care of us.
When it's too late.
Take care of themselves.
Yes,
it's always when it's too late.
It's an elitist attitude, as you point out. Hamilton liked that idea that you have those who are smarter and more connected, and they deserve to have the power and the money, and the regular folks are just kind of, they feed into the system to keep the system going.
Hamilton was a secret Benedict.
Well, you think, you almost think he might have been a plant from England.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that. Somebody emailed me that question just today, and I kind of doubt it. I think he just saw how that system was the route to money and power for a certain elite group of people, and he wanted to use that system for his own money and power and for him and his friends. I don't think he was a spy or anything. He was a hero of the revolution. He was at George Washington's side during the war, but I think he just wanted to bring the British system over here.
More of an opportunist.
Yeah.
Yes, he was a politician after all, and
Yep.
he was so smart and so energetic that Jefferson once called him a political colossus.
Wow.
So he had the greatest respect for how dangerous this man was in terms of his political effectiveness. And in my book, I quote George Will, the columnist, as saying, even though Americans like to quote Jefferson and his philosophy, it's really Hamilton's country that we live in now, with the Fed and the centralized government that we have, the corporate welfare. These were all Hamilton's things. A big national debt. He proposed a big national debt, by the way, because he knew it would tie the affluent people of the country to the government. They would always be in favor of higher taxes, make sure that there's money in the Treasury so that their bonds could be paid off. And that's why one of the biographers that I cite calls him the American Machiavelli. That was a very slick political maneuver to expand the debt just for the sake of expanding the debt.